Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even, like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends as we're going to be chatting it up with William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. We're going to be talking with him about what we're all seeing in these playoff races, which have been very, very interesting to say the least. And then additionally, we're going to be chatting with him about some of the games that we've got on a pretty full Monday in baseball. We've got 13 games in total, so we're going to have a good chat with him in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all. And here in the first segment, we're going to be recapping all that we saw in baseball on Sunday. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by Edge Boost. Over at Edge Boost, they're making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever, and that 100% of gambling transactions do get approved. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That'll get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Sunday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The top under team in all of baseball produces, well, yet another under. The Cincinnati Reds, they were on to a 6-1 win over the Arizona Diamondbacks to avoid the sweep. For the Reds, they put up a 5 spot in the 8th inning as Zach Allen, pretty solid start here. 6 innings, he allows 1 run. From there, Juan Murillo, and out of the bullpen, scoreless. Kyle Backus does allow a run in his inning work. And then for Juan Burgos, he gives up 4 runs in a third of an inning, including home run. Going deep for Cincinnati, Spencer Steer, a 3-run shot, 16th home run season. From there, John Curtis with 2 S's, 4 outs out of the bullpen, scoreless. And Brady Singer had the Diamondbacks singing the blues. Gives up 1 run over the course of 6 innings, including 9 strikeouts. From there, Graham Ashcraft, Tony Santillan, Emilio Pagan, all able to give you a scoreless inning. The Dodgers avoid the sweep at the hands of the San Diego Padres. 8-2, the final. Padres, by the way, been one of your better under teams in all of baseball. 55 overs, 72 unders, and 4 pushes. And for the Dodgers, coming into this game, the lone 2 runs of the series had been via Alex Freeland's solo home runs. And for Freeland, he was unable to go yard in this one, but everyone else got things online. As you had home run number 3 of the campaign for Dalton Rushing. Shohei Ohtani, it was showtime, 45th home run of the season. And Freddie Freeman, 17th and 18th home runs of the season as Nick Pivetta. He does allow one of those home runs to Freeman, 2 runs in total over the course of 6 innings, and what has been the best bullpen in all of baseball in terms of ERA, well, they imploded. Jeremiah Estrada gives up 4 runs in 2/3 of an inning. You had Wandy Peralta give up a run in 1 1/3 innings, and Yuki Matsui gives up a solo home run in his inning of work. Main form of offense here for the San Diego Padres, Elias Diaz, 6th home run of the season. That comes off of Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who gives up 2 runs over the course of 6 innings. Jack Dreyer along with Blake Triton, they combine for a scoreless inning, and then Tanner Scott and Kirby Yates, fresh off the injured list, both were able to supply a scoreless inning. The Brewers are starting to go a little bit cold. They lose this series to the San Francisco Giants, and they lose on Sunday by a count of 4-3. As for Luis Matos, he was able to go deep off of Chad Patrick, 7th home run season. Patrick not too bad in the start, gives up that home run, 2 runs in total in 5 1/3 innings. Nick Mears, a pair of outs out the bullpen scoreless. Shelby Miller, Abner Uribe both lend a scoreless inning, and then Trevor McGill does give up 2 runs in his inning of work. Both came in the 9th inning as you had Eloy Ramos get an RBI single that turned out to be the difference, and you had Mr. Caleb Durbin get his 8th home run season. That comes off of Robbie Ray, and for Robbie Ray, not necessarily a Robbie hooray, but not necessarily a boo either. 3 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, and then from there, the bullpen goes to work. Jose Buta along with Ryan Walker both give you a scoreless inning apiece, and Yo Piguero along with Matt Gage, they combine for 2 scoreless innings. For the Walker Texas Rangers, they take it to the Cleveland Guardians, this by a count of 5-0. For Texas A-Bound, one of your best home under teams in all of baseball, Merrill Kelly, well, he was able to hold up his end of the bargain as he was able to go in this one 7 scoreless innings. From there, yeah, Danny Kalum and Hobie Milner both lend a scoreless inning. And then for the Texas Rangers, a pair of bombs in this one. Rowdy Tellez, he gets rowdy for his home run number 15th of the campaign, and Jock Peterson, 6th home run season. Those come off of both Gavin Williams along with Eric Zabrowski allows a home run. It is 1/3 of an inning of work. Dink Enright, 5 outs of the bullpen scoreless. Tim Aaron, a scoreless inning. Jacob Junis, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Matt Festa, he goes a third of an inning scoreless. And for Gavin Williams, just not long for this game. 90 pitches, 3 1/3 innings, allows 3 runs, all of which were earned, including that Tellez home run. And for the Texas Rangers, 23 overs, 42 unders, and a push at home thus far this season. So they have been a very underwhelming team at home thus far this season, but this team has been very overwhelming all season long. That would be the Toronto Blue Jays, who I believe still do have the top over rate in all baseball. They indeed do, and especially with a total closing at a 7.5, it opened up at an 8. That gave you another over, 72 overs, 53 unders, and 6 pushes, but was not enough to be able to get the job done on this day as the Miami Marlins, they get the win by a count of 5-3, and for the Miami Marlins, Eri Perez has been very good at home thus far this season. Was a little bit roughed up here late in the game, but still supplied 6 innings, gave up 2 runs, both of which were earned. Lake Picard gives up a home run in 1 2/3 innings of work. Dalton Varsho, 15th home run season. He's getting a home run every about 10 or so at bats. Ronnie Enriquez and out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Tyler Phillips, a scoreless inning, and Eric Wagaman gets his 9th home run in the campaign for Miami. That comes off of Kevin Gausman. For Gausman, gives up 4 runs in 6 innings. From there, Uriel Rodriguez gives up a run in an inning, and Paxton Schultz was able to give you a scoreless inning as well. Things have been rough here in the second half of the season for the Tampa Bay Rays, but same goes for the St. Louis Cardinals, and the Rays take it to the Cards by a count of 7-2. Long rain delay to start with this one off, and it did not help out Matthew Liberatore as he gives up 4 runs in 4 1/3 innings, including home run to Christopher Morel. 10th home run season, then Junior Caminero off of Matt Savanson, 37th home run season. Savanson gives up that home run in his 2/3 of an inning of work. Andre Granillo gives up 2 runs in 2 innings, and Ryan Fernandez a scoreless inning. And for the Rays, Ryan Pepiot very much on in this game. Not a lot of length, only 63 pitches, 5 total innings, but he lost 1 hit, no runs. From there, you did have Mason Montgomery give up an unearned run in 2/3 of an inning of work, and then you had 2 1/3 innings with 1 run allowed by Brian Van Beal in his MLB debut, and Edwin Uceta a scoreless inning out of the bullpen as well. Speaking of keeping things scoreless, Paul Skeens and the Pittsburgh Pirates hold down the Colorado Rockies 4-0 the final, as the Rockies have been one of your best under teams in all baseball, mainly because they have not been able to generate a lot of runs, and that was the case today. As for the Colorado Rockies, 4 total hits, and you did have 4 runs given up in 3 2/3 innings by McCade Brown. This was not what he was looking for, and he gives up a home run along the way to Jared Trollo, 5th home run season. From there, the bullpen was actually relatively solid. Anel Shavili, 2 1/3 innings scoreless. Jimmy Harrigan, 2 scoreless innings, and for the Pirates, Paul Skeens, 7 scoreless innings, 7 punch-outs. Isaac Madsen, Dennis Santana from there, they both lend a scoreless inning. And for the Baltimore Orioles, they lend a 3-2 win over the Houston Astros as Trevor Rogers just continues to be magnificent. A 1.40 ERA this season, 9 punch-outs, 1 unallowed over the course of 7 innings. Uncle Rico Garcia doesn't throw the ball over the mountains, but he did throw it over the plate, giving up 1 run in a third of an inning. Keegan Aiken from there, 5 outs out of the bullpen to be able to get the save. And for the Orioles, pair of home runs. Gunnar Anderson, he gets home run number 16 of the campaign, and Luis Vasquez gets his first home run of the season. As for Vasquez, he goes deep off of the new relief piece in John Rooney. MLB debut for the Astros, gives up that home run in 1 1/3 innings. Spencer Urquidy was not bad. He gave up the home run to Henderson, but 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Craig Kimbrell, yes, that Craig Kimbrell, a scoreless inning, but not enough for the Houston Astros to get the job done in this one. This wasn't enough for the Braves to be able to get the job done. They take it to the Mets by a count of 4-3, as the Mets have been quite miserable recently. David Peterson, no relation but great name, he was solid. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Did walk 4. That was a little bit off-putting, but Brooks Raley is scoreless inning. Oscar Barzobin and out of the bullpen scoreless, and then Gregory Soto does what Gregory Soto does, gives up 2 runs in his inning of work, and for the Mets, Mark Vientos was able to go deep for his 12th home run season. Mets leave 10 men on base, by the way, as for Vientos goes deep off for Bryce Elder, who he has really struggled this year. 2 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings. From there, Peters Johnson, Dylan Lee combined for a scoreless inning. Raciel Iglesias tried to blow this game. He gave up a run in the 9th inning, but gave up just 1 run on 3 hits in the 9th inning. And Tyler Kinley, scoreless inning for the Atlanta Braves. The Philadelphia Phillies find a way to persevere over the Washington Nationals. This by a count of 3-2. As for the Nationals, they got some really good bullpen pitching in this one. Jake Irvin, not the length that they were looking for. 3 runs allowed in 2 1/3 innings, but you had from there Jackson Rutledge, Connor Pilkington, along with Clayton Beater, all ended scoreless inning, and Shinakowski Ogasara, he was able to come in for 2 2/3 innings scoreless. You had Luis Garcia go yard off of Orion Kirkring, 11th home run season. Kirkring gives up that home run in his inning of work, so if you had the run line, that was a little bit rough, but how about Rangers for us? 11 punch-outs in 7 scoreless innings. Jose Alvarado does not get it out of the bullpen, allows a run along the way, but Tanner Banks, a scoreless inning, so the Philadelphia Phillies find a way to persevere and get the job done, and so did the Kansas City Royals. They've been one of your best 100 teams in all of baseball. Royals, 57 overs, 72 unders, and 2 pushes, but they pump out the runs against the Detroit Tigers. 10-8 the final, as for Kansas City, you were able to get a relatively good showing out of the bullpen after Seth Lugo got completely lit ablaze. 6 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings as he was taken deep by Riley Green, 31st home run season, and you also had Wencio Perez get his 11th home run season. A little bit later on, Spencer Torkelson off of Lucas Ursich, 28th home run season for Ursich, gives up that home run in his inning of work, and then Anel Zerpa, he gives up a run in 1/3 of an inning, but John Schreiber, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Jonathan Boland, Carlos Aceves, both on the scoreless inning, and for the Kansas City Royals, pair of bombs of their own, as Captain Jack Flaherty gives one up to Vinny Pasquantino, 28th home run season, then Miguel Garcia off of Brendan Hennefy, 13th home run season. Hennefy gives up that home run in his inning of work. You also had Tyler Holton give up a run in his inning of work. As for Jack Flaherty, man, 8 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings, including 10 hits. That was not great. Tommy Kahnle, a rare scoreless inning, and Rafael Montero was not Montero Bull. He gives you a scoreless inning, but too little too late out there. And for the Minnesota Twins, it would be too little too late if they had anything whatsoever. They get shut out by the Chicago White Sox, 8-0 the final, as the White Sox put up 7 of those runs in the first 2 innings. Todd Jonquel and Milton Bradley, who was playing games with us, gave up all 7 of those runs in the first 2 innings. Did manage to fill 5 innings, but not great. Pearson Ewell from there gives up an under run in 3 innings of work, and for the Twins, they left 9 men on base, and they could not get to one Mr. Yandres Gomez, 4 2/3 innings scoreless. Mike Vasil from there, 2 scoreless innings. You had Wookman Gonzalez give you a scoreless inning, and Brandon Eisert, he was able to go for 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless as well. And then you saw the Seattle Mariners just completely pulverize the Athletics. This by a count of 11-4, as for the Athletics, Jacob Lopez, 9 runs allowed in 2 innings after he had given up like 2 runs in his previous 5 starts. He allows a pair of bombs as big dumper Cal Raleigh. Home runs number 48 and 49 of the campaign. He provides those both in the first 2 innings. From there, the Athletics bullpen was not too bad. Yeah, Joey Estes gave you 4 scoreless innings, and then 2 runs allowed in 2 innings by Edward Neal Nunez, but for the Athletics, they were unable to really do a great job of being able to claw their way back, as you did have Jacob Wilson go yard off of Logan Gilbert, his 11th home run season. Gilbert gives up just that home run in his 6 innings of work. 13 strikeouts, by the way. From there, Carlos Vargas gives up 2 runs over the course of his innings of work, and for Taylor Cicado, he gives up a run in his 2 innings, but for the Seattle Mariners, nice, clean, and easy win there, and a nice, clean, and easy win for the Chicago Cubs. They take it to the LA Angels, this by a count of 4-3, as for the Cubbies, James Satayon lent a relatively solid start. Does give up a home run to Taylor Ward, 30th home run season, but that's all that he surrenders in 5 innings of work. Andrew Kittredge from there, 2 runs, one of which was earned, given up in an inning, hurt by a Dansby Swanson fielding error, and then from there, Caleb Theobar, Brad Keller, Daniel Palencia, all end a scoreless inning, and for the Chicago Cubs. They did a pretty solid job of getting to their old teammate in Kyle Hendricks. 4 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. Bullpen from there was solid. Andrew Chafin, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Chase Silseth, Brock and Rolberg, Ryan Zephyrion, Jose Fermin all lend a scoreless inning, but a little bit too late out there. And then on Sunday Night Baseball, the New York Yankees get the job done by a count of 7-2. Solid start here from Carlos Rodon. He gives up 1 hit, though he did give up 5 walks. 2 runs allowed as Nathaniel Lowe, an RBI single in the 6th inning. Lone form of damage there. And for the Red Sox, you had Dustin May have made a 5 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings, including a trio of bombs. Trent Grisham goes deep off of him twice, 24th and 25th home runs of the season. And then Jazz Chisholm, his 23rd home run season. Chisholm would also go deep off of Walker Buehler, who's now in the bullpen, 2 1/3 innings. Not going much better than it did as a starter for him. He gives up 2 runs, including that bomb. Brendan Bernardino, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. And for the Yankees, Luke Weaver, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Devin Williams, Camilo Duvall, they both under scoreless innings. So the Yankees do avoid a 4-game sweep at the hands of the Red Sox. And if you're looking trend-wise at what we're getting in Major League Baseball, last 30 days have been quite overwhelming. 201 overs to 180 unders, so 52.8% hit rate over the last 30 days to the over, and then favorites having a rough go of it in the last 30 days. 223 and 179 on the money line side. It's 55.5%. If you look at the last 7 days, a little bit more in line with what we've seen this season. 54 and 40 on the money line for favorites at 57.4%, and the under rate, well, it's not very high. 49 overs to 38 unders. So last 7 days, the over rate has been about 56.5% overall for the season. The under rate is more like 51.4%, 959 unders to 908 overs. And favorites for the season hitting right around about 56.9%, 1,101 and 834 on the money line. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Sunday. Now let's take a look at what we've all got on the Monday card and take a look at these playoff races with William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. He joins me next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Mr. William Boor aboard. He does such a tremendous job over at Action Network. Taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know that he's getting set for some football as well. We got a little bit of a smattering of it on Saturday, probably games that got a little bit hyped up than what they needed to be because it was the lone form of meaningful football that we have, but meaningful football is now back in our lives, and we are going to be getting a lot of that. For William, he does a great job on so many different fronts, whether that be baseball, whether that be hot dog eating. He's going to have you covered on it all, and you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at the letter W, last name Boor, Boor, and William, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Greg. Always happy to hop on, talk baseball or anything else with you.
Absolutely. And William, just what do we make out of these playoff races right now? Because it feels like just when we've got everything all figured out and just when it feels like, hey, we're finding our bearings, we know what to expect out of these teams, it feels like everything goes harebrained and crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. I think the biggest thing that impacted me over the past couple of days from a future standpoint is finding out, Zach Wheeler is going to be out for the year. That kind of makes you look at the Phillies differently. The way Shane Bieber threw makes you look at the Blue Jays a little bit differently. It's just one start. Don't want to take a ton from that. It's obviously a small sample size, but that was a small sample size, one start, but it was a good start. So we've got a lot of interesting things that have happened over the past couple of days, and I'm sure the week ahead is going to be just as intriguing.
Yep, and you did mention the Philadelphia Phillies being now without Zach Wheeler, but that said, the other team that's trying to trace him down in the National League East, I think that there needs to be a legitimate concern that the Mets might miss the playoffs right now because they have been looking very, very poor, and that bullpen that was supposed to be revamped at the deadline, Ryan Helsley has now lived up to his bearings. It feels like a top-heavy lineup. I've got a lot of questions right now with the New York Mets.
And you are not alone. This is a team that, got off to a really hot start this year. It was on fire in April and May and is just not faring well right now. 5-5 in the last 10. Like you mentioned, that bullpen is not good. Right now, if the playoffs started this second that we're recording, they would get that final wild card spot. But the Reds are creeping up and the Mets are just not playing well. That wild card, they are slinking down in that order, and it's got to be kind of scary if you're in New York right now.
Yep, it certainly is. And man, this has been just such an interesting ride in general for them. And the good news for the New York Mets is that they get to go back out there on the field on Monday and try to be able to take it to the Philadelphia Phillies, as it's going to be Kodai Senga against Christopher Sanchez. That total is currently an 8, and I want to get your thoughts here because with Christopher Sanchez, he has legitimately probably been the number 2 option in the National League this year with Zach Wheeler going down for the Cy Young. I don't think anyone's chasing down Paul Skeens, but he's been pretty amazing. And Kodai Senga has been pretty darn good at home for the Mets. And look at that total of 8, even though the bullpen has been a little bit shaky for the Mets. And that's where I personally would be going with this one.
Yeah, the total seems a little high, but I'd obviously want to jump on that quick. You don't want that to dip down any further. That's for the total. As for like a game pick, Senga's been throwing well, but we just talked about the Mets' current form versus how the Phillies have looked. You gotta like the Phillies in this spot for the game overall, or because of the Mets bullpen. Maybe if you want the Mets first 5, that's one thing, but I don't trust them to hold on to the full game at this point.
Yeah, man, it's been rough for some of these guys in that Mets bullpen that reared its ugly head once again on Sunday, and it just feels like whatever can go wrong will go wrong right now for them. And for the LA Dodgers, things went a little bit more right for them on Sunday, but they've been an interesting team in that they were on the outside looking in for the NL West divisional title entering into Sunday. Now on Monday, they have to take on Hunter Green, who's been so good all season long, against Emmett Sheehan. Right now, that total is 8.5, and the Dodgers are between -140 and -145. And I want to get your thoughts on 2 things. For one, this game, and for 2, why the Dodgers can't seem to hit when Max Muncy is out, because this happened the first time he was on the injured list, and the second Max Muncy hit the injured list, it's as if the Dodgers lineup lost their superpowers.
It's weird because you would think, like, I don't know how, I get how that maybe impacts later down in the order.
Like, he's a solid player, but it's not like he's like Babe Ruth.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know like how that impacts, Ohtani or Betts or Freeman. Why does it make them worse? But somehow it does. It's very weird. But you're right. As far as this game, the Dodgers are just a tricky team. You look at that lineup, you look at the names, and it's hard to pretty much ever fade them because you're like, oh, this team's going to score 40 runs a game. But like, it doesn't always work. There's obviously days when they bust out and then you like feel dumb for ever doubting them. They'll go off, they'll win like 7 of 10, scoring 8 runs a game. And you're like, okay, cool. And then all of a sudden they just will lose 6 of 7 or something and, blow some leads with shaky bullpen. And you're like, wait, what just happened? Like, they're a very weird team. I'm not gonna doubt them because of the way they can hit. Like, to me, if you want to back the Reds, you want to kind of back Hunter Green in the spot. So it's probably a first 5 play. Like, I have a hard time. Obviously, Green, better pitcher than probably Sheehan starting for the Dodgers. Like, Cincinnati has the starting pitching edge, but just with the names in that lineup, I just have a hard time fading the Dodgers. I'm pretty much fading Dodgers like straight up on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it is really hard to do, but man, it's been really weird how they've played without Max Muncy. So that has been a fascination for me, to say the least, as William Boor does such great work over at Action Network. He is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show, and I do think that this is going to be fun to take a look at. Spencer Strider has really struggled for the Atlanta Braves recently. 20 runs allowed in his last 3 starts. Now goes up against a Miami Marlins team that's a little bit gutted with Edward Cabrera rolling for them. Right now with the Marlins, they're a slight underdog of between +105 to +112. Essentially what we got yesterday, and I was willing to back the Marlins as a little bit of an underdog with Eri Perez on the mound, and I look at this spot as being a very similar one where the Marlins are currently a slight underdog, and I feel like they should be a slight favorite.
Yeah, I'm with you. I would take the Marlins in the spot, especially at plus money. Strider is a big name, and I feel like at times he's getting priced like slightly based on his last name and not on the way he has pitched in 2025. I mean, you've got an ERA north of 5 and we're in August. It's not like it's one bad start or something and we're in May and, it's artificially inflating it. Like he's struggled. Pitcher's win-loss is obviously not the best, most indicative stat in the world, but 5-11 is also not good either. Like Spencer Strider is having a tough year. The Braves are having a tough year. You've also got to wonder for a team like the Marlins fighting, seeing if they can finish hot, maybe get to 500, 8 games back. That's probably lofty expectations at this point. But a team like the Braves that went in this year wanting to compete for the East, that's, always in playoff contention, them being so far back in August, you've almost got to think that they just want to shut this down and get to the offseason.
Yep, and I will say this for the Braves, since the All-Star break, the offense has picked it up, but man, the pitching for this team has looked quite elderly, with Bryce Elder giving you a good start on Sunday, but man, it's been a rough go of it for he and so many others, so that is very much of intrigue, and we've talked a lot about the National League. How do we take a look at the American League right now? Because that just feels like a jumbled up mess as well. The Seattle Mariners were absolutely able to take it to the Athletics on Sunday, so that upped up their cause, along with Trevor Rogers just being one of the best stories in all of baseball and taking it to the Houston Astros. And I feel like it's a very open American League, but the more that I look at it, the more I feel like the Seattle Mariners might be that team that makes a run.
I'm with you. I really like the Mariners. I think they might be the best team in the American League right now, at least the way they're playing. This is going to be a very interesting series with the Padres coming up here. It's really intriguing. Both teams are obviously in the heated of division races. And then you've got the weirdness that sometimes comes with interleague, like the Padres Mariners is not a standard matchup we're necessarily used to, but the way both these teams have been playing and where they both are in the standings, this is going to be a fascinating series over the next couple of days.
Oh, it is going to be a relatively fun one. And as of right now, we don't have a lot of numbers up on the board for that game on Monday. It is going to be JP Sears taking on Bryce Miller. But that said, how do you take a look at this sort of a game? Minus 126 on the Mariners, plus 108 on the Padres with a total of 7.5. And I just don't trust in JP Sears. I don't know how you take a look at things, but at a minus 125 or so on the Mariners, I actually think that that's a very reasonable price.
I'm with you on Sears, but I'm also not the biggest Bryce Miller fan either, which kind of makes this tricky with both pitchers.
Perhaps an over of 7.5.
Yeah, that ballpark's tricky, but 7.5 is low. I actually don't hate that. I might go into that route for this game as well. 7.5 is low. This ballpark does suppress offense, but I think I trust both of these offenses more than I trust either of these starters.
Yeah, I do not blame you there. And for the Seattle Mariners, being able to pick up Eugenio Suarez at the deadline, having Cal Raleigh dump multiple homers on Sunday, clearly some good signs there. And then also out there in the American League, what do we make out of the fact that the Boston Red Sox have all of a sudden got hot? Now, we don't know what they're going to be throwing out there for Monday because this was supposed to be Walker Buehler's turn through the rotation. They put him into the bullpen. Seems like they might be calling up Richard Fitz for this, but we are doing this before Sunday Night Baseball took at the very minimum 3 out of 4 from the Yankees, and they're looking like a team that's picking up a lot of steam as well.
It's tough to say because, like you said, we don't have a price and we don't know who's pitching, but they've been playing well. They're better than the Orioles. If they keep hitting, I might not necessarily care who's pitching to an extent, obviously, and just back the Red Sox in this game to just stay hot and continue on their good form and just be like, hey, you guys are actually fighting for something. Baltimore's not. Let's just back Boston to keep it going.
Yep, absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see what we get there because if they do throw out their Richard Fitz, 10 starts and 41 innings is a little bit off-putting, but that bullpen has actually been very good this year for the Boston Red Sox. And William, in terms of the slate for Monday, anything else that's really catching your attention, whether that be a game that you're going to be looking to bet or just a team or two in general that down the stretch you want to gauge them a little bit more?
I think we hit the big ones really with the Phillies and Mets and Padres, Mariners. Nothing on Monday, but I do know the big things I want to see the coming week are definitely the next time Shane Bieber takes the mound. I want to see, if he looks good again. He probably won't look as good, but if he spins another quality start. Now with Wheeler going down, definitely want to see if we can ever get anything from Aaron Nola next time he takes the mound too.
Yeah, with Aaron Nola, he's had 2 starts against the Washington Nationals and hasn't necessarily been great in those starts, so that's a little bit off-putting there, and the Philadelphia Phillies are going to need him to step up because even though they've got Jose Alvarado back in the bullpen for the rest of the regular season, they are not going to be having him in the postseason, so that's a little bit of an issue, but what always solves our issues on this podcast is getting you aboard, William, because you do such a great job of taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. I know you're doing so many things over there at Action Network and doing so also well, so love to get people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
For sure. I'm on Twitter and Blue Sky at WBoor, WBOOR. If you just want the betting picks, they're in the Action app at William Boor _ all one word. Yeah, don't just follow me. Make sure to go to actionnetwork.com, download our app, follow everything me and my coworkers are doing. Got betting guides for every single baseball game every day, WNBA, obviously college football and NFL coming up. So that's going to be filling our website. You guys are all going to be watching games and making bets on the weekend anyway, so let's hopefully find some winners together.
Yeah, absolutely. And William, he's doing such an amazing job taking a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. And every single time he joins me on such great insights. So big thanks to William for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by William Boor, who does such great work over at Action Network. Take a look at this great game that we all know and love of baseball. Every single time he joins me, lends such great insights, and did so once again today. So big thanks to William for joining me in last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Monday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81. We are going to be going in the Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things served? 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The Atlanta Braves are on the road against the Miami Marlins as Edward Cabrera is on the bump for the fish, and Spencer Strider goes for Atlanta. Atlanta is a -119 to a -127 favorite. Between +104 to +112 is that number on Miami with a total of 8. Under is -115 and the over is -105. And I'm going to be going with the Miami Marlins on the money line. I felt like they should be the favorite in this spot. Set them at a -113. For Spencer Strider, this has just been an absolutely miserable run for him and a rough season in general. For Spencer Strider for the campaign, posting up a 5.24 ERA, still over 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 1.7 home runs, 3.6 walks allowed per 9 innings, and in his last 3 starts, 11 2/3 innings, 20 runs allowed. Now, this is a Miami Marlins lineup that is currently without Kyle Stowers. That is their main home run hitter, so that obviously affects things a little bit, but they still have guys that are able to do a solid job of moving the line, finding way on base, and they really don't strike out a lot, which I do like. You've got someone like Xavier Edwards, who's been able to about a 300 when he's been at the top of the fold. Jacob Marcy, in a small sample size, over a 400 on base. He's been very, very good for this team. All right, 3 triples, so you do love to see that. Liam Hicks has been able to give you about a 353 on base. Augustin Ramirez at this point is your main form of power. He's been able to give you 18 home runs, so he's only hitting a 232. And then you got some of these other young guys that have been mix and match and found a way on base, like Alberto Hernandez, Troy Johnson. These are guys that are hitting above a 265 for the team. And for the Miami Marlins, if you look since the beginning of the month of June, this has been a tough team in terms of bullpen ERA. You've had the likes of Lake Bakar, Anthony Bender, Ronnie Enriquez, Tyler Phillips. A lot of guys come in, be able to supply a sub-325 ERA. And for the Atlanta Braves, they've been 23rd in this time span. You do have Desbel Hernandez, Dylan Lee, who will be able to give you sub-335 ERAs. And they did have Rossio Iglesias have an adventure yesterday, but did end up getting the job done. So, very early there. Pierce Johnson has been solid, but he got used for 18 pitches yesterday. Now the Atlanta Braves, top 6 team in terms of runs per game since the All-Star break, as Ron Acuna Jr. is back, 422 on base, 15 plus home runs. You've got Marcell Ozuna, Matt Olson, who have both been able to give you 19 to 20 home runs apiece. Both give you about a 363 on base, so Ozuna's only hitting a 231. You've had Michael Harris really be able to pick it up, 15 plus home runs, hitting for a 253. That 273 on base is still very off-putting, though, and Nick Allen is stuck on 0 home runs with a 223 average, so that has been a little bit less than tremendous for Edward Cabrera. He has been a solid pitcher this far this season. He's still getting around 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 352 ERA, comparable fielding dependent with 0.9 home runs, 3 walks allowed per 9 innings. That ERA goes down to a 321 at home, and at home he's given up 5 home runs in over 50 innings thus far this season. So in a little bit of lower scoring affairs, I do think that Spencer Strider bounces back a little bit here. Do think that the Marlins get the job done. So my total is 7.8, so you're at the 8. I like the under and the Marlins at plus money on the money line. 953, 954 on the betting board. The Philadelphia Phillies are on the road against the New York Mets. Kodai Senga goes for the Mets. Cadiz Sefer Sanchez is on the bump for the Phillies. Phillies who find themselves as between -109 to -115 favorites. Right now, between -101 to -106 is that number on the Mets. Talent's game is 8. The under is -115. The over is -105. pretty much whatever team becomes plus money is who I'm going to be taking, and I'm thinking that that's going to be the Mets. I would need at least a plus 103 to be able to take a shot on the Mets on the money line. I have this as essentially a true pick 'em, and it's all said and done. I do think that the Mets flip to being an underdog, especially since Christopher Sanchez has been so rock solid this year. 2.46 ERA, 2.63 fielding dependent with 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings, and 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in 13 out of his last 15 starts. Now Kodai Senga with the 4.3 walks allowed per 9 innings, a little bit off-putting. His fielding independent, a lot higher than his 2.58 ERA, but has kept the ball in the yard, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, getting about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2 earned runs or fewer allowed in 15 out of his 20 starts. Now the Mets need to pick it up with the bullpen. Ryan Helsley has been a complete disaster for this bullpen thus far. Tyler Rogers has been pretty solid, and so has Gregory Soto, though Gregory Soto is a guy that I do have my question marks with. Brooks Raley has been able to give you a sub-250 ERA. Oscar Barzobin has fallen down the toilet bowl a little bit. Obviously, Edwin Diaz has been rock solid and did not have to pitch yesterday, and for the Mets, it is a little bit of top-heavy lineup. Quartet of guys at the top who have been able to give you at least 20 home runs this season. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, all in for at least a 325 on base and a 254 average, except for Soto, who's still giving you about a 390 on base with 32 home runs, so he's been rock solid there. Pete Alonso's went a little bit cold, went 0-5 yesterday, but Brett Beatty, he's now been able to give you 15 home runs. He's hitting about a 245. Whenever he's been out there, Francisco Alvarez is hitting about a 250. Cedric Mullins has a bit of power, but hitting just a 232, so it's a top-heavy lineup with Mark Vientos having struggles, so he was able to go deep yesterday for the New York Mets, and on the other end, it is a Philadelphia Phillies bullpen that it has not been great this far this season. Yohan Duran has been pretty great, as he's been able to close out a bunch of games. He's given you a sub-225 ERA, and then you do have a Ryan Kirkering, who did have to get used up yesterday. He's been able to post up a sub-3 ERA along with Jose Alvarado, Tanner Banks, and welcome back Jose Alvarado. Not good for the postseason, but he's in for the rest of the regular season. Tanner Banks has not been awful, but Jordan Romano has had his issues. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, this hasn't been quite the same lineup when they have been on the road rather than at home. For the Philadelphia Phillies, they're registering over 5 runs per contest when they are at home. This takes a big giant nosedive when they're away from home, and away from home, they've been right around about average in terms of on-base percentage. At home, they are number 1 in the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage. Kyle Schwarber, it doesn't matter if he's at home or on the road, he has been absolutely magnificent. 45 home runs, 370 plus on base, so he certainly has been able to do his part. Trey Turner down for what? He's hitting darn near 300. He's been able to get 30 plus home bases, double-figure amount of bombs, so he's been solid. And now you've got Bryce Harper up to 21 home runs. He's doing a nice job finding a way on with about a 360 on base. You've had Nick Castellanos only hit for about a 296 on base, but he's still supplying some power. You're bringing Harrison Bader, Brandon Marsh, these guys bringing in that neighborhood about a 260, so they've been solid. But again, with the Philadelphia Phillies, who have some issues with that bullpen, I think that this is going to be a very well-pitched game. I set my total at 7.3. Even with the bullpen struggles, I think that both starters go out there and dominate, so I'm going to be in on this 8 under. And for the Mets, if I could get them at plus money, I'm going to take them on the money line. 955, 956 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks are on the road against the Milwaukee Brewers. Brandon Woodruff is on the bump for the Crew. Eduardo Rodriguez is on the bump for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Total on this game is 8. Over is between minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between even to minus 105. And for the Brewer Crew, between minus 170 to minus 182 is that number. Between plus 149 to plus 156 is the number on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And for the Saints, I need at least a plus 217 to be able to take a shot there. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Milwaukee Brewers, we're doing this off the old FanDuel opener, but I was willing to go up to a minus 109 with regards to that run line. Right now, you're going to be able to get that at plus money at a plus 120. Sign me up there. For Brandon Woodruff, he has been quite electric for the Milwaukee Brewers this far this season, as he's getting over 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, and has done a really good job in terms of command as well. I recognize that it's a pretty small sample size of 8 starts, but he's been giving up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, 247 ERA, the 350 fielding dependence, because he has been giving up 1.4 home runs per 9 innings. He did give up a few walks in that start against the Cubs that pushed it up to a 2.3 prior to that start. He's given up fewer than 2 walks per 9 innings, but still, overall, has been able to hold down the fort. 3 runs or fewer allowed in every one of his starts, and goes up against an Arizona Diamondbacks team that has now gutted thanks to what happened at the trade deadline. You trade away and Eugenio Suarez along Josh Naylor, and now you're having to rely upon Blaze Alexander, who is giving you a 330 on base, but not a ton of power. James McCann has been serviceable at the catcher spot. Lots of guys sitting in that neighborhood. We're going to call it about a 240 to a 255. McCann, Alec Thomas, Blaze Alexander, depending upon what happened on Sunday, probably going to be there. Corbin Carroll, Lourdes Gurriel, all on that full. Pavin Smith is sitting about at 255. He's off the injured list, and Carroll has been able to give you a bit more power recently. He's up to 26 bombs. And Ketel Marte, and he continues to give you about a 390 on base. Power's down a little bit, but still 23 home runs this season. But the Arizona Diamondbacks bullpen is just so off-putting right now, as you just don't have anyone that's able to give you a sub-350 ERA other than Andrew Saalfrank. He's been pretty rock solid for the team, but John Curtis with 2 S's, Jake Woodford, Jalen Beeks, Juan Barrio, Kyle Bacchus, all these guys posting up an over 4 ERA. It is pretty rampant, and for the Milwaukee Brewers since the beginning of the month of June, a top 7 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. Shelby Miller, who they are, ironically enough, acquired from the Arizona Diamondbacks. Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill, Nick Mears, these guys have all been solid with regards to mixing and matching, and for the Brewers, it's not like they've got a ton of power, but they're a top 5 team in terms of run production because you just have so many guys that are able to move the line in general. Christian Yelich, he's up to 26 home runs, and by 15 plus home runs, I mean healthy players with 15 plus home runs because Jackson Chourio is currently on the injured list, but you just take a look at all these guys. They're giving you at least a 320 on base. Anthony Slager, along with Caleb Durbin, Sal Frelick in a Brewers uniform and a Brewers uniform only. Andrew Vaughn's up to a 386 on base. William Contreras, Bryce Terang, all these guys are doing such a rock solid job there. I do think that they're going to get to a guy in Erod Eduardo Rodriguez, who just has not necessarily had a great year. I believe that he's better than what he's shown thus far this season with regards to that ERA, as for the ERA, it's currently at a 5.40. He has been allowing about 1.6 home runs and 3.5 walks per 9 innings, but it's still getting 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has given up 4+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts. Sort of been an up and down year, and do think that the Brewers are going to be able to get to him here. So I might tell it at 8.4, so like that 8 over, and the Brewers on the run line, 957, 958 on the card. The St. Louis Cardinals play host to the Pittsburgh Pirates. This was originally supposed to be Mitch Keller going for the Pirates, but now it is going to be you don't mess with the Johan Oviedo on the bump for the Pirates. Michael McGreevy is on the bump for the Cardinals, and the Cardinals do find themselves as mid-sized favorites, anywhere between -127 to a -137, between +112 to a +118 is that number on the Pirates with a total of 8. The over is -120, and the under is even, and I did make my money line price a -156. Originally it was -144 with Keller, but as long as we can keep this at a -155 or better, going to be looking at the Cardinals, or if we can get like a +130 on the run line and we're up in that neighborhood of like a -150, -155, we'll be looking at the run line. So unless we get a big change from the numbers that we got with Mitch Keller, most likely going to be in on the Cardinals on the money line for McGreevy. He does a nice job of not hurting himself. There's absolutely no deception whatsoever here with Mr. McGreevy, a 4.26 ERA while getting 5.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's only allowing 1.1 walks, 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So he's been able to do a serviceable job there with that 4.26 ERA. Does come along with a 3.39 fielding, but he's given up a grand total of 5 earned runs across his last 3 starts. So you do like to see that. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, this continues to be a rough lineup, to say the least. They are currently dead last in all of baseball in terms of run production, though they were able to give Paul Skeens a little bit of production yesterday, so yay verily there, but the team is averaging 3.16 runs per game away from home. Only the Colorado Rockies are scoring fewer runs away from home, and right now you're dealing with your top home run hitter in Oneil Cruz dealing with a bit of an injury. That's a bit of an issue. That means that they're going to have 2 wealthy guys in the lineup right now that are aiming for above 7 home runs this season. That'd be Brian Reynolds and Andrew McCutchen. They combine 25 home runs between these 2 guys, and then have a cavalcade of different guys that are just not moving the line or getting on base. Jared Trollo, Lovar Piero, along with Emmanuel Valdez, Henry Davis, Jack Swinitsky, so many guys. They're right now hitting at 220 or lower. It's pretty rampant, and it's not like the St. Louis Cardinals have been laying the world on fire in terms of their offense, but you've been able to get a little bit more out of Wilson Contreras. He's up to 19 home runs. He's giving you about a 3.45 on base. Ivan Herrera has been off and on injured, but when he's been out there, he and Alec Burleson in between about a 282, 285, so that's been a little bit nice for this team. You've had a really good amount of production in a small sample size for Jose Fermin. He's hitting well above a 300. Don't know how long that's going to be able to keep up, but you do have a lot of these young guys just not stepping up for the team. Jordan Walker, Victor Scott, Pedro Baez, Nolan Gorman. These are all guys hitting at 235 or lower. Lars Zupar has been a little bit better since coming off the injury list, but that's a tad bit of an issue. What I will say for the Cardinals is that this bullpen has been relatively solid. You got a lot of guys like Matt Savanson, Kyle Leahy, Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien give you a sub 325 ERA, and when it comes to the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's been an off and on bullpen as you've right now been able to persevere without David Bednar, as Dennis Santana, Isaac Madsen are both giving you sub 350 ERA. Kermit Mlodzinski in the role of a reliever has been solid, and the role of a starter has not been, but Colin Olderman has not been living up to his name. Yohan Ramirez, a north of 6 ERA. And for Oviedo, he actually began his career with the Cardinals organization, looked relatively good in his last start, but it's a small sample size. He's only made 2 starts this far. His first start only lasted 2 innings. Last start out, he went 4 innings. I believe that he allowed no runs in that time span, but he's been a little bit up and down throughout his career about 8 strikeouts and 4.3 walks per 9 innings. I've got my question marks there, backed up by a bullpen that's relatively okay, but the dead last lineup in the big league, so semi-total at 8.3, 8 or less and on the over, 8.5 or higher, the under, and for the Cardinals, we'll go up to a minus 155 on the money line slash. If the money line gets a little bit chalky at a plus 130 or so, I'd be willing to take a shot on that run line as well. 959, 960 on the card, the Cincinnati Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're under the road to face off against the LA Dodgers. Emmett Sheehan is on the bump for the Dodgers, and Hunter Green goes for the Reds. The Reds do find themselves as a underdog of between plus 118 to a plus 127. Minus 136 to minus 145 is that number on the Dodgers, and total is 8.5. The over is minus 115, and the under is minus 105, and I'm going to be willing to go in on the Dodgers. I was willing to lay up to a minus 141 with regards to this money line, as for the LA Dodgers, I have noticed that without Max Muncy in the lineup, they haven't necessarily been quite the same team, but I do think that they're going to be able to bounce back a little bit here. You do have a Reds team that is in a little bit of a West Coast road trip, and for the Reds, it's been a little bit off and on for them as well. Lost a few games against the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I do think that one thing that is really hurting the Cincinnati Reds is that other than Elly De La Cruz, you just don't necessarily have that main masher, and for De La Cruz, he hasn't been pumping out a lot of deep balls recently. 19 home runs this season. He has been able to give this team right around about a 350 on base and all the stolen bases, and you do have plenty of guys that they move the line, like Gavin Lux at 350 on base, CJ Friedel 360 on base, Eovaldi Marte has been able to about a 300. Brian Hayes, since coming on over, he's been solid. Austin Desai's kid, hitting for about a 320 with regards to that on base, but really other than Spencer Steer and his 15 home runs, you don't have a lot of power with this team, and everything else for the Reds, it just feels like it's average, other than Hunter Green. Hunter Green has been great, and he came off the injury list, and Hunter Green has been great at his 2 starts since coming off the injury list. A combined 3 runs allowed in 12 and a third innings and 18 punch-outs in that time span, and a pair of wins against the Angels and the Philadelphia Phillies. So you do absolutely love to see that, and for Green, 1.8 walks, so 11.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, 263 ERA, 306 fielding dependent. He's been great, but Emmett Sheehan very silently has actually had himself a pretty nice season here for the LA Dodgers himself. He's another young gun that is able to get quite a few strikeouts, as right now he has been posting up 9.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, 417 ERA, but closer to a 365 fielding dependent, 1.1 home runs, 3.3 walks allowed per 9 innings. Lost a tremendous run in his last 2 starts. A combined 9 runs allowed in 11 innings against the Rockies and the Angels, but those were a pair of road starts, and when you take a look at what Emmett Sheehan has been able to do in Los Angeles, it's been quite a bit better. 371 home ERA with 2 home runs allowed in 17 innings, relatively small sample size, but he's been able to hold down the 4th there, and these are a pair of teams with relatively pedestrian bullpens. For the Reds, you do have a guy in Emilio Pagan who gives up a little bit more of the deep ball than what I'd like, but he, along with Tony Santillan, have been able to give you sub 325 ERAs, and then you've got Brent Suter, Scott Barlow hovering in that neighborhood about a 350 ERA, Graham Ashcraft closer about a 380, so, and again, not amazing, not terrible, and with the Dodgers, it's just been attrition for this team, as right now you've got a lot of injuries. Brock and Roll Stewart is on the injury list. They're just getting back Kirby Yates and Tanner Scott, but these guys have not necessarily been great this year either. Both of these guys posting up an ERA hovering right around 4. They do have Blake Trinan back off the injury list, so that helps them out a little bit. It's really been, though, Jack Dreher along with Alex Vesia being your main guys, being able to give you a sub 325 ERA, and then Max Muncy being on the injury list has really affected the Dodgers team. When he was out of the lineup in the month of July, they were actually a bottom 10 offense in terms of runs per game. Mookie Betts has actually had a relatively rough season, as Alex Freeland had a pair of home runs for the LA Dodgers in that series against the San Diego Padres, so yay, verily there. You had Oscar Hernandez, Andy Paz, both had 20 plus home runs, both both hitting above at 250. And then obviously Shohei Ohtani has been amazing, over at 385 on base, 44 home runs. He's been able to get the job done. Will Smith getting jiggy with it, 400 on base. Freddie Freeman continues it for 300 with 16 home runs. But in the end, I do think that the Dodgers are able to get to Mr. Hunter Green just enough in this one. I do think that this might be a bit of a lower scoring game, so I told it 80.3. So here at the 8.5, I do like the under. And for the Dodgers, we'll go up to a minus 141 on that money line. 961, 962 on the card. The Boston Red Sox are on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. Tomoyuki Sugano is on the bump for Baltimore. Right now, it's all to be determined who's on the bump for the Boston Red Sox. This game is off the board. Reason why this is a TBD starter for the Red Sox is that this was supposed to be Walker Buehler's time through the order, but that said, for Walker Buehler, he has been sent to the bullpen. Right now, the projection for CBS is Richard Fitz who would be going, and if you do indeed get Mr. Fitz going up against Sugano, I'd be willing to set a Orioles money line of a minus 114, so willing to go up to a minus 113 on the Orioles, plus 115 or higher on the Red Sox, and set a total of 9.69 for less, and on the over a 10 or higher to the under. This would be relatively the same if we do have ourselves a bullpen game, as well as Richard Fitz would be making his first start since like late July. He's sort of been hovering between the majors and the minors, not really dealing with a lot of injuries or anything like that, but I mean, when Richard Fitz has made his starts, he's only been able to average about 4.1 innings. He's made 10 starts this year's season, 41 innings, so that's been a little bit of an issue as he's just not getting a lot of deception. 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 2.2 home runs per 9 innings. As a matter of fact, if you get a bullpen game of the Red Sox, I might actually be willing to make this a little bit closer to a pick'em because the Red Sox bullpen has been very good. They've been in the top 7 in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got the likes of Steven Matz, Garrett Whitlock, along with Justin Wilson, who have been able to give you a sub-3.35 ERA, and Aroldis Chapman has been absolutely amazing. But for the Boston Red Sox, they are going to be coming off of Sunday Night Baseball. That does affect this team a little bit, and you've got a lot of young guns that are stepping up for the team. Rami Gonzalez has been able to do a nice job hitting north of a 285. You've had Roman Anthony not necessarily supply a lot of power, but darn near 400 on base, and John Nixon Garcia, hopefully I said that correct, the guy that they call the password. They just called him up to the big league level. That should be able to give them a little bit of support. Right now, Weiler Abreu, the main guy, with regards to home run hitting, is on the injured list, but you just have a lot of guys in general in this lineup that are hitting in that neighborhood of, we're going to call it about a 249 to a 261. Jarren Duran, Trevor Story, Don Rafaela, Carlos Cervantes, they're all there, and Story is up to 20 home runs. Would like to see the on-base be a little bit better, but all in all, these guys have been solid. And Story and Duran have been able to both give you north of 20 stolen bases, and for the Orioles, this has been a completely different offense when they've been at home rather than away from home. As a matter of fact, the Orioles are currently dead last in the American League in terms of runs scoring away from home, with right in that neighborhood about 3.75 runs per game. Meanwhile, they're scoring closer to about 5 runs per game at home. They're dealing with quite a few injuries in the lineup, but you've got Gunnar Anderson, Jackson Holliday, both with between 15 and 16 home runs apiece. Gunnar Anderson has been able to hit for about a 285, and then you've had a few other guys be able to step up, like Colton Cowser, not hitting for any sort of average, but he does have 11 home runs and about 225 at-bats thus far this season. Kobe Mayo has been a disappointment. Tyler O'Neill has been a disappointment, but I mean, they are now, with having on the injured list their main guy in Adley Rushman, getting Samuel Basallo to give you some really good at-bats. They're feeling great about him, so you like to be able to see that. And Alex Jackson, when he's gotten opportunities at the catcher spot, honestly, it's not been terrible. What has been terrible for the Orioles has been this bullpen, though. Bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. You've actually had few guys be able to give you some solid innings. Like, you've right now got Rico Garcia, who's been able to post up about a 360 ERA. Keegan Aiken has been a very solid long guy, but having Felix Bautista on the injured list has been hurting them. And then you got the likes of a Ynier Cano, Yarmil Hidalgo, Grant Wolfram, Corbin Martin, guys like this posting up over a 4 ERA. So, I mean, it is a very interesting situation because Sugano pitches to just way too much contact in general, but he's been able to do a nice job in terms of just having discipline, not giving out a lot of walks, which has allowed him to be able to persevere this year. 3.97 ERA, and he's given up a grand total in terms of earned runs of 6 in his last 5 starts. I do think that there's some regression there, as he's got a 3.97 ERA compared to a 4.79 fielding dependent. 5.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.4 bombs allowed per 9 innings, but again, 2.2 walks allowed per 9. So, do think they get a high scoring game, 9.5 for less to the over, 10 or higher to the under. If you do get Richard Fitz against Sugano, willing to lay up to a minus 113 on the Orioles money line, plus 115 or higher. Looking at the Red Sox, bullpen game for the Red Sox, probably closer to a plus 105 or higher, would be willing to side with the Sox. 963, 964 on the betting board. It is the Tampa Bay Rays on the road against the Cleveland Guardians. Tanner Bybee is on the bump for Cleveland, and Ian Seymour makes his first career career start for Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is an underdog between plus 129 to a plus 136, minus 150 to minus 157. That number on Cleveland, with 8 being the total. The over is minus 115, under is minus 105, and for Seymour, I'm willing to take a plus 138 or higher with regards to this money line. Right now, we're finding a plus 136. When it's all said and done, I do think that we're going to be able to get to that plus 138 moniker. Rays are affected a little bit by the fact that they had a pretty lengthy rain delay yesterday. And for Ian Seymour, while this is his first career start, he's made plenty of appearances as a long guy on the bullpen. As a matter of fact, his last 5 appearances, he has won at least 2 innings. So I don't think that he gives you a full 5, but at the same time, he's going to give you more than like 2 innings or something like that. Overall for the season, Seymour, 386 ERA, 371 fielding dependent, 10 strikeouts to 3 walks per 9 innings. When he was down for the minor league ranks, when he was pitching for the old Bull Durham Bulls, he was really good. He was posting up a sub-3 ERA, getting 11 strikeouts per 9 innings, not allowing too much of the deep ball. I actually think that there's some upside here with him, but that takes away a key cog for the Tampa Bay Rays bullpen. That has been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of their ERA. You still have Pete Fairbanks, along Garrett Clevenger, a pair of guys who will be able to give you a sub-3 ERA. I don't understand why some of these guys are at the minor league level, like Eric Orze has been rock solid this year. They currently don't have him up at the big league ranks. For someone like a Cole Soser, they sent him down to the minor league ranks as well. He's actually been relatively effective, so I mean that's been a little bit interesting. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, this is a season that has gone down the toilet bowl here in the second half. Jonathan Aranda being on the injured list to start them, but still have Junior Caminero, 36 home runs, hitting at 255. Brandon Lau has been able to bat at 270. He's up to 25 bombs, and Yandy Diaz continues to about at 280 with 21 home runs. This is one of the best base stealing teams in all baseball as well. Chandler Simpson hitting a 300 with 37 stolen bags is awesome. Jake Magnum, he's hitting at 285. He's been able to give you 20 stolen bases, but the bottom of the lineup has been very costly. The likes of Taylor Walls, Christopher Morel, the entirety of the catcher spot, these guys hitting at 225 or lower. That's been an issue, and this is a Cleveland Guardians team that they themselves are a very top-heavy lineup. Jose Ramirez, 26 bombs, give you about a 360 on base. Stephen Kwan has been able to hit 275 at the top, but then just have a lot of guys in general hitting between about a 224 to a 233. Kyle Manzardo, who does have 21 home runs and a 320 on base. CJ Kayfis, Anel Martinez, Brian Rocchio, Carlos Santana, Daniel Schneemann, and then you've got likes of David Fry, Bo Naylor, Austin Hedges, so many guys hitting below the Beddoes line of 200. Though for the Cleveland Guardians, since the beginning of the month of June, this has been a top 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA. This despite the fact that they don't have Emmanuel Clase out there, and I recognize that Kate Smith had a little bit of a rough weekend, but Jacob Junis, Kobe Eller, Nick Enright, Eric Sabrowski, these guys have been able to give you a sub 325 ERA, so they've been able to do a pretty rock solid job there. And for Tanner Bybee, this guy has been completely different at home rather than on the road. If you look at the overall season numbers, 4.62 ERA, giving up over 1.7 home runs per 9 innings. He's been seeing a dip in his swing and miss stuff with about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's been less than tremendous, but 5.64 road ERA, 3.19 home ERA, and at home he's been giving up only about 0.7 to 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. His walks per 9 rate is below 2.8 when he is at home as well, so interesting circumstance. At a plus 138 or higher, I'm going to be in on that Rays money line, and did some I tell it at 8.2, so here at the 8, I'm in on the over. 965, 966 on the card. The Toronto Blue Jays play also the Minnesota Twins. Joe Ryan is on the bump for the Twins. Matt Scherzer is on the bump for the Jays. The Blue Jays are between a minus 131 to a minus 137 favorite. Plus 113 to a plus 122 is that number on Minnesota. 8 is the total over and under between minus 105 to a minus 115, and set the Jays at a minus 139. So I'm going to be willing to dive in on the money line for Max Scherzer. Is he vintage Max Scherzer this year? No, but he's been presentable enough. A 3.60 ERA. He's still getting about 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has been allowing 1.7 home runs per 9 innings, which has been a little bit less than savory. But I mean, how about this recent run? In his last 4 starts, he has given up a combined 5 earned runs, so he's been able to do a relatively good job with that regard. And for Joe Ryan, throughout his career, he's been a little bit less effective when he's been away from home rather than when he has been at home. But I mean, overall, he's posting up a sub 3 ERA. He is giving up a little bit over 1 home run per 9 innings, but less than 2 walks per 9 innings. He's been able to post up about 10 strikeouts per 9. He's been able to do his part. The problem is everyone else on the Minnesota Twins, because they traded away so many pieces at the deadline, and that has made things very, very tumultuous with regards to this lineup. As I mean, you still have Cody Clemens along with Matt Wallner, who have been able to combine for 29 home runs this far this season, but for the love of Pete, both of these guys are hitting below a 230. Byron Buxton continues to be rock solid, 25 home runs, about a 330 on base, and ever since he came off the injury list, you've had Royce Lewis hitting above a 260. Luke Hackshill has actually given you a 425 on base. That's a young guy that's starting to step up. Brooks Lee, Trevor Larnach, these guys in that neighborhood about a 242, 250. But Edouard Julien is hitting at the Mendoza line 200. Mickey Gasper is hitting a 115. Again, the likes of Clemens and company just not giving you a ton. That's been a little bit of an issue. And for the Twins, this is a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA, and they traded away all their good bullpen pieces. I wish I could put it any other way, but right now you're relying upon guys like Cody Funderburk, Cole Sands, Justin Dopa, a whole bunch of guys with north of a 350 ERA. Genesis Cabrera has been an issue. Brooks Kriske is posting up an ERA that's above a 4. So these guys have certainly not been able to get the job done. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, this team has been right around about league average in terms of their bullpen ERA. You've got the Killer Bees and Brandon Little along with Braden Fisher who will be able to give you a sub 325 ERA. Uriel Rodriguez has been pretty solid for this team. Dealing with the Yumi Garcia injury has been an issue. And Serenity Dominguez, you don't know what you're going to get out of him. Jeff Hoffman has been a disappointment, but this is a Blue Jays lineup that when they've been at home, they have been some of the best smashers in all of baseball. Right now, 5.27 runs per game at home. That is number 1 in the American League. They are dealing with Flagler Jr., dealing with a little bit of an ailment, so do want to be taken out there. But Dalton Varsho is giving you a home run every about 10 or so at bats. Not really hitting for a lot of average, but he is right now supplying the boom. George Springer, 380 on base. He's up to 22 home runs this season. And even if Guerrero doesn't partake in this game because he was missing throughout the series against the Miami Marlins, still plenty of guys that are doing a great job of being able to supply for this team, as Bo Bichette has been able to give you 16 plus home runs. He's hitting a 304. You've had, don't call his name, Alejandro Kirk be able to give you about a 295 average as well with Guerrero. Didn't start yesterday, but he did pinch hit, so that's a good sign for this team. Should be able to get him back out there, maybe at a little bit less than 100%, but even Nathaniel Lukes, he's been able to give you a 330 on base. He's hitting at 250 overall for the campaign. So this is a team that they've got plenty of firepower in that lineup. They've been doing a rock solid job supplying the boom at home all season long, and I think that they get to Ryan a little bit here and that bad bullpen. So I did set my total at an 8.3 here at the 8. I'm in on the over, and for the Blue Jays, I'm going to be willing to lay the money line, willing to go up to a minus 138. 967, 968 on the card. The Chicago White Sox playoffs to the Kansas City Royals, as Noah Cameron goes for the Royals and Shane Smith is on the bump for the White Sox, and Southsiders are between plus 113 to plus 120 underdogs, minus 130 to minus 137. That number on the Royals, 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115, over is minus 105. We're going to play another Royals under here. I set my total at 8.1. Noah Cameron has just been so consistent for the Royals, and at some point the bottom might fall out a little bit as a fielding independent just does not match up with that 253 or a 388 fielding independent. He's only getting about 7.3 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he has given up 2 runs or fewer in 14 out of his 18 starts thus far this season. Gets to go up against a White Sox team that's 27th in the league in terms of runs per game. Royals are actually even worse at 28th in the league in terms of runs per game. So you've got 2 pedestrian offenses. We'll say for the Royals, they've been in the top 10 in terms of run production ever since the All-Star break, and they did put up a 10 spot yesterday, as Vinny Pasquantino has been amazing. 28 home runs. He's now been able to hit about a 325 on base. You've been able to have Salvador Perez start to pick it up as well. He's overall for the season got 22 home runs. If you take a look at what he's been able to do over the last 30 or so days, he's been able to give you a little bit more power. The average has been sliding a little bit, hitting for only about a 220 over the last 30 or so days, but so has been able to give you that power, you know, what you get out of Bobby Witt Jr. He's up to 17 plus home runs, 355 on base, over 30 stolen bases, and Mikey Stremski already has 3 leadoff home runs for the Royals in his first 20 games, 330 on base. You still just expect a little bit more out of Jonathan India, though. 8 home runs and a 236 average is just off-putting. Miguel Garcia has been able to 300. He's up to 13 home runs, but Kyle Isbell, no power at the bottom of the lineup. The catcher spot outside of Salvador Perez, whenever he has a DH, that's been a little bit hit or miss as well. And for the Royals, this has been a very rock-solid bullpen, top 12 team in terms of bullpen ERA, with having Lucas Erceg, Carlos Aceves, both give you a sub-3 ERA. Now have Daniel Lynch off the injured list with a sub-3 ERA. John Schreiber more around about a 310. Hunter Harvey being back on the injured list is a little bit off-putting, and for the White Sox, this honestly has not been a bad bullpen. They've been hovering right around about league average all season long. The long guys have been good. The likes of a Mike Vasil, Steven Wilson, Dan Altavia is currently on the injured list, Tyler Gilbert. These have been guys that have been able to supply for you sub-350 ERA. Now, when you go to the likes of Brandon Iser, Jordan Leisure, Grant Taylor, these guys have been posting up an ERA above a 4, and for the White Sox, the biggest issue for the team has has been a lack of power. As Lennon Sosa right now leading the way with his 17 home runs, hitting for about a 270. Have three other guys that have been able to, actually now four other guys with Colson Montgomery up to 13 home runs, between 13 and 14 home runs, as you've gotten that out of Miguel Vargas, Luis Robert, Andrew Benintendi, and the aforementioned Montgomery. But all these guys hitting between about a 225 to 235. You're really not getting a lot of on base out of any of these guys. And then you've got Brooks Baldwin, who's been really not moving the line whatsoever at 290 on base. Michael A. Taylor's hitting at 212 when they were trotting out their Joshua Palacios, Josh Rojas. These guys were giving them nothing. They had to DFA a lot of just veteran guys that did not pan out in general. So that's been an issue, though. The catcher spot, Edgar Quiero, Kyle Teal, both of these guys have been able to above a 265. And Mike Tauchman has given you about a 370 on base. So he's been relatively respectable. And for Shane Smith, comes in good form. 2 runs of fear allowed in 4 of his last 5 starts, 4.15 ERA. Does give up 4 walks per 9, but about 8.5 punch-outs per 9. He's only giving up 1 home run per 9 innings. And you've got a game involving 2 of the worst offenses that we've got in all baseball. So this is a circumstance where I did set my Royals money line at a minus 142. I'm going to be willing to lay that in. Do like this total under, so I tell it at 8.1. 969, 970 on the betting board. It is the Angels, and they're on the road against the Walker Texas Rangers. As one Mr. Jacob DeGrom is on the bump for the Rangers, and Jose Soriano is on the bump for the Halos. Halos who find themselves between plus 149 to plus 158 underdogs, minus 175 to minus 182 is that number on Texas, with 7.5 being the total. Under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. And for the Angels, I did set them as a underdog of a plus 188 if you're looking to lay run half right now with the Texas Rangers. Again, they have to do this off the FanDuel opener, but find that at a plus 116. I was willing to take a plus 105 or higher, so I'm going to be willing to dive in there. Now, I will say this for Jose Soriano. He has been a whole heck of a lot better when he has been on the road rather than at home this season. Overall for the season, posting up about a 4 ERA. He's giving up over 4 walks per 9 innings, so about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but when he's been on the road this year, he's given up 4 home runs in 74 and 2/3 innings with a 2.89 ERA. Faces off against a Rangers team that, if you look since the beginning of the month of July, this offense has been a whole heck of a lot better. They've been averaging about 4.7 runs per game. Meanwhile, overall for the season, they're a bottom 8 team in terms of runs per game, but now they're dealing with some injuries. Evan Carter looks like he might be out for the remainder of the season. That's a little bit rough for this team. I know that Marcus Semien has been in and out of the lineup as well, so that's an issue. You do have Adolis Garcia, but he's hitting about a 225 with not a lot of on base. 17 home runs this season, and Corey Seager, Wyatt Langford, these have been your main 2 matchers. Both of these guys between 18 to 20 home runs this season. For Langford, up to about a 340 on base. Seager, a 370 on base. And then you've got the Joshes, Josh Young, Josh Rojas doing an okay job in terms of moving the line. And Kyle Higashioka since the beginning of the month of July, hitting above a 300. That's been rock solid for the team. But for the Rangers, you're looking more at the pitching for the team to be able to hold things down. As for Mr. Jacob deGrom, he's actually had a little bit of a rough run recently. He has given up 3+1s in 3 out of his last 4 starts, but has been able to do a much better job at home rather than on the road, as the Rangers ballpark has actually been playing very pitcher friendly thus far this season. 2.11 home ERA compared to a 3.46 ERA on the road for DeGrom. And DeGrom is giving up over 1.6 home runs per 9 innings away from home. At home, this goes down to about 0.75 home runs per 9 innings with his 2.11 ERA, and he goes up against an Angels team that's very all or nothing. For the Angels, they're in the top 5 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. They're in the bottom 7 in the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage, as Taylor Ward has been the main man in terms of crushing the ball. 30 home runs. He's been able to give you about a 315 on base. You've got Joe Adell setting fire to the rain with his 28 home runs, but 298 on base. Luis Rengifo, he's been providing a 295 on base. You just expected a little bit more there. And then you've got some of these just young gun mix and match guys like an Oswald Peraza. I know that they were throwing out their Nico Cavallidis yesterday. These guys running below a 200. That's been a little bit of an issue. Mike Trout, even though he's been able to give you 20 plus home runs at a 366 on base, he is just hitting at 235 this season. And for the Angels, this has been a very off-putting bullpen. They're currently in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA. Having to throw on the injured list a few different guys, including Hunter Strickland, has been an issue, as you've got Ryan Zephyrian, Reed Detmers, Luis Garcia, among many others, with above a 3.5 ERA. You've had Kenley Jansen and Brock and Roll Burke actually give you a sub-3.25 ERA, and we'll see what Robert Stevenson is able to do. Very small sample size for him thus far, but for the Rangers, you've had a lot of guys just be able to mix and match in this bullpen. I recognize that they're dealing with a few ailments as well, with Chris Martin currently being on the injury list, but like Hobie Milner or Danny Kalum, who I recognize that he's seen a little bit of a fall off since he's come over to the Texas Rangers. Sean Armstrong, these guys being able to spy a sub 3.35 ERA is big. Robert Garcia hovering more around about a 3.5 with regards to that ERA as well. Do think that this is going to be a relatively well-pitched game. Set my total at a 7.4, so you're at the 7.5 and in on the under, and for the Rangers, plus 105 or better, going to be willing to dive in on that run line. 971, 972 on the board. The Tigers are on the road against the Athletics as JT Ginninjuice is on the bump for the A's, and Tariq Skubal is on the bump for Detroit. Detroit between minus 204 to minus 220 on the money line, plus 175 to plus 183. That number on the Athletics, the total is 8.5. The over is between minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between even and minus 105. And if you're looking to lay a run half with the Tigers, that initial opener is minus 130. I'd be willing to go up to a minus 140 on this run line. For Tariq Skubal, had a few pedestrian starts here in the beginning of the month of August. Looked very good in his last start against the Astros. That was a 1-0 game that went to extra innings, so he was certainly able to do his part and then some. And I do think that for Tariq Skubal, he maybe just went through a little bit of a rough patch, and I think that he's back. I think that he's back in full force, and you just take a look at the overall season numbers, and it's hard to not bank on him in this spot. 2.32 ERA, fielding independent, that is a 2.21, 11.3 strikeouts, a 1.4 walks allowed per 9 innings. Now, Sacramento is a ballpark where things can get very, very funky, and the A's, when he faced off against them at home, this was like a month and a half ago, he did give up 3+ runs to them, so be mindful of that, as this is an Athletics lineup that they can give you quite a bit of boom. Now, they've got a bullpen that gives you a whole heck of a lot of busts as well. As for the Athletics right now, they're a bottom 3 team in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERAs. You just don't have a lot of guys that you're able to rely upon. Osvaldo Bido, along with the likes of Hogan Harris, have been very rough for this team. Justin Sterner, I'll give you above a 3.50 ERA. They had to throw out there a bunch of long guys because Jacob Lopez could only go 2 innings yesterday. That was less than tremendous for them. Now, for the Athletics, you do have a quartet of guys who have been able to give you at least 23 home runs this season, and all these guys are hitting at least at 260, as you've gotten that out of Tyler Soderstrom, Shea Langoliers, Nick Kurtz, and Brent Rooker. Rooker's hitting about a 270. I mean, Langoliers for his career has not been great with the average. He's been able to hit about a 265. Kurtz is up to about a 400 base. It is a little bit of a top-heavy lineup, though. You look at some of these guys at the bottom. Max Muncy, no, not the right Max Muncy, has been not necessarily giving you a ton. Lawrence Butler is down to about a 300 on base, so he has been able to give you 15+ home runs. They're getting Jacob Wilson back in the fold as well, and then Darnell Hernandez, about a 315 on base, but not necessarily giving you a ton of power. And then on the other end for the Detroit Tigers, this has actually been a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA since the beginning of the month of June, so that's been an issue. Tommy Kahnle has been absolutely awful. Chase Lee was so bad that he's currently not with the team, so that's not what you want to see. You've been able to have Brandon Herter, Brandon Hennefy, along with Bo Vest, be able to give you some good innings, but I'm pretty sure that Herter is right now on the injured list, so that's been hurting them a little bit as well. But for the Detroit Tigers, just a lot of consistency with this lineup. On any given day, typically all but either 1 or 2 guys are hitting at least a 255 in this lineup. When Trey Sweeney's out there for Zach McKinstry, typically he sees a little bit of a dip in his batting average. And then other guy, Spencer Torkelson, who's been great with his power, 28 home runs, 336 on base, hitting about a 243. Pretty much all these other guys like Gary Carpenter, Wencio Perez, Riley Green, Dylan Dingler, they are all hitting at 250 or higher for this team. And Green is up to 31 home runs. He's been rock solid. Gary Carpenter, 20+ bombs as well. So it's an interesting spot here with a guy in JT Ginn, who, when he's been coming out of the bullpen this year, he hasn't been too bad, but in his last few starts, well, he's been getting teams juiced up, as in his last 3 starts, he has now given up a combined 11 runs, 10 of which have been earned. If you want to go back last 4 starts, he has given up a grand total of 15 runs, 14 of which have been earned, going 5 innings or fewer in every one of them. Overall for the season, 495 ERA, 493 fielding independent with 2 home runs allowed per 9 innings. The runs are flowing like wine out there in Sacramento, so I did set a little bit higher total of an 8.6, even with Tariq Skubal on the bump. So here at the 8.5, I like the over, and with the Tigers, I'm willing to go up to a minus 140 on that run line. 973, 974 on the card. It is the Washington Nationals. They are on the road facing off against the New York Yankees, as Cam Schlittler is on the bump for the Yankees, and Brad Lord says, oh Lord, to getting another start. Right now, that initial opener is the Yankees, minus 111 on the run line, minus 225 on the money line, plus 188 is that number on the Nationals. Total of 9.5 over is even money, and the under is minus 120, and I did set the Yankees at a minus 112 on the run line, so that minus 111 that I'm seeing at FanDuel is the absolute max I'd be willing to lay, but I would be be willing to lay that run line. Now, Brad Lord actually deserves a little bit of respect. He has come in and he's actually been done a relatively solid job of starting for the Washington Nationals. As you take a look at his last 5 starts, he's been able to go out there and hold down the fort. He's given up a combined 10 runs, which, I mean, if you look at that Nationals bullpen and how atrocious it is, they are dead last in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Likes of Jackson Rutledge, Orlando Rebalta, Edward Salazar, like all these guys posting up above a 5 ERA. They are terrible. Brad Lord is actually able to give you a little bit of something, and Lord is giving up 0.7 home runs, 2.9 walks per 9 innings. So go with that 3.46 ERA, 3.65 fielding, depending on for Schlittler, since coming up to the big league level, he's been giving you 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's a good strikeout artist, but needs to work on the command a little bit. 1.5 home runs, about 4 walks per 9 innings. So he's got a 3.22 ERA, closer to a 4.57 fielding dependent, though he has given up 300 runs or fewer in all these starts. Now he does go up against the Washington Nationals team that's averaging about 4 runs per game at home, closer to about 4.5 to 4.6 runs per game away from home. Like CJ Abrams has 17 home runs, and for some reason 14 of them have come on the road this far this season. You've got Luis Garcia, James Wood, all in between about a 255 to 265. Wood has been able to give you 25 plus home runs, 355 on base, but has really slowed down since the All-Star break. And then you've got some of these young guys like a Dylan Cruz, Andres Chaparro. They're in below a 215. You just need a little bit more there. Robert Hassel sitting at 230 with no power and at 248 on base. Brady House is sitting at 258 on base with not a lot of power as well, so that's been a little bit off-putting, especially with Keibert Ruiz being on the injured list. And for the New York Yankees, this has been a less than savory bullpen for them, but I mean, you've been able to get some good innings out of David Bednar since you picked him up. Camilo Doval has not necessarily been able to do his part. Luke Weaver is starting to look a little bit better in that bullpen as well. He's been able to give you sub 325 ERA, but Devin Williams in his 5 ERA has been absolutely awful. Tim Hill has been relatively solid, but it's been very hit or miss there. But you know that with the New York Yankees, you've got the capability of being able to go yard at any given time, as you've got Aaron Judge doing an absolutely tremendous job, give you a 440 on base, 40 plus home runs. And then if you just take a look at the starting lineup that you got on Sunday Night Baseball yesterday, all but one player had at least 16 home runs, with Giancarlo Stanton having exactly 16 home runs, and he's getting a home run every about 10 or so at bats. So he's been rock solid. Trent Grisham, 23 bombs, he's giving you about a 340 on base. Ben Rice had a little bit of a mid-season doldrum, he's up to 20 bombs. Cody Bellinger is sitting at 270, he's been able to give you 24 home runs as well. So these guys have been rock solid. Could use Austin Wells and Anthony Volpe to give you a bit more in terms of on-base and batting average. Both of these guys in below 225 and below 285 on base, but I do think that they should be able to get to Lord and what is a really, really bad bullpen. I did set my total 9.2 because, again, I do think that Schlittler is going to be able to find it at the big league level, and Brad Lord, he has been pitching relatively well for the Nationals, so I'll take the 9.5 under and the Yankees up to a minus 112 on that run line and wrap things up with 975, 976 on the card. The Padres are on the road against the Seattle Mariners, as it is one Mr. J.P. Sears on the bump for the Pods, and Bryce Miller goes for the Mariners. Mariners are minus 126 favorites, plus 108 on the Padres. 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 125, and the under is plus 105, and I'd be willing to take a shot on the over. I did set my total at 7.9. I just don't really believe in J.P. Sears. J.P. Sears, a relatively nice start last time out against the San Diego Padres, but this guy has had a few changes of scenery and just has not been able to put it together. Now, I recognize that when he was out there in Sacramento, things were a little bit less than savory there, but and that said, even when he's been on the road this far this season, for J.P. Sears, he's been giving up a lot of the deep ball. 494 ERA with over 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. You look at his road starts, so this is all the starts that he's made outside of Sacramento. 487 ERA, giving up 10 home runs in 68 and a third innings. Hard to be able to trust in that. And then for Bryce Miller, he has had a very shaky season, to say the least. He's been in and out due to injuries. 587 ERA, posting up a 477 fielding dependent. Only giving up about 1.2 home runs per 9 innings, but the over 4 walks per 9 innings, not tremendous. Made his first start since June a few nights ago against Philadelphia Phillies. Gave up 4 runs in 5 innings. I figured that there was going to be a little bit of rust, and for Bryce Miller, throughout his career, he's always been much better at home rather than on the road. This year, you're not seeing as much of those splits because it's a small sample size. 5.11 home ERA compared to a 6.52 ERA on the road this season, but if you look at the overall career of Bryce Miller, his ERA drops by nearly a full 1.8 points when he's at home. 3 home ERA, 4.86 ERA on the road. At home, he's given up about 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. On the road, he is giving up closer to about 1.4 to 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, and he goes up against the San Diego Padres team that just has not been busting the ball out of the yard hard this year. I wish I could call it anything else, but if you look at home runs on a per at-bat basis, the San Diego Padres, I recognize that they picked up a few pieces at the deadline. Second worst in all of baseball. Ramon Laureano with 19 home runs has been relatively rock solid for this team, as he and Ryan O'Hearn are both give you above a 340 on base, and obviously, you've been able to get some good production out of Manny Machado along with Fernando Tatis Jr. For Tatis Jr., he's been stuck on 17 home runs for quite a while, but still give you about a 370 on base. Manny Machado, he's giving you a 355 on base. He's been able to supply 21 home runs. Luis Rise, I think at 285, you honestly expect a little bit more out of him. And for the Padres, the main saving grace of this team has been the bullpen. They've been number one in the big leagues in terms of their bullpen ERA, with so many guys give you a sub 275 ERA. Adrian Morejon, David Morgan, Jason Adams, Jeremiah Estrada, all being rock solid. They pick up Mason Miller at the trade deadline, who honestly isn't even an above average piece in this bullpen. Wandy Peralta's actually been solid, giving you about a sub 3 ERA. And for the Seattle Mariners, the top guys have been really good in this bullpen as well, as you've been able to get really nice production out of the likes of Gabe Spire, along with Edward Bizardo, Andres Munoz, Matt Brash, all these guys being able to give you a sub 325 ERA. And for the Seattle Mariners, absolutely pulverized the Athletics yesterday. You've now got Cal Raleigh up to 49 home runs this season. His on-base percentage hovering in the neighborhood about a 350. You've also been able to get about a 350 on base. J.P. Crawford, Josh Naylor has done a nice job moving the line, not giving you a ton of power, but he's finding a way on base. Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez, 23 plus home runs apiece. And for Arozarena, he's up to about 340 on base. Haven't gotten a lot out of Van Eugenio Suarez since he was picked up at the deadline, as in a Seattle Mariners uniform, he's been hitting below the Mendoza line of 204 home runs in his first 22 games. You expected a little bit more there, but I do think that he's going to find it sooner rather than later. I do think that the Seattle Mariners take it to the Padres, so at that 7.5, I like the over, and for the Mariners, want to go up to a minus 145 on the money line, and that'll wrap things up for the Monday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Big thanks to William Boor, who does great work over at Action Network. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you, for this podcast, you have one of two ways we are far this in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, regular season, and postseason, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.